said, I want to welcome y'all to Pitt Lives Interfaith Forward, building new bridges together. This is an initiative pushed and really propagated by Vice Chancellor Humphreys, the entire university events and academic ceremonies department. Definitely want to give a shout out to Sharon, to Ashley, to Stephen, to Graham, to Dr. Humphreys, the entire department that makes this possible. Pitt Wildlife has a ton of events, ton of workshops, tons of programs for students, for the Pitt community. So if you're interested, go to Pitt Wildlife. This is really an aspect of Pitt Wildlife that we want to engage the whole person and want to make sure that different parts of us, not just the body, but the soul, the spirit, just the different parts of us are being engaged. And a huge part of us that often gets neglected is the spirit aspect, the soul aspect, the faith aspect, the worldview aspect. And that's where I come in. I am the program manager for the Office of Interfaith Dialogue and Engagement here at Pitt. I have been running the department for what's going on a year and some change. And it's just been a blessing, been cultivating a lot of ground, and a lot of my work touches on really engaging the whole person at deeper depths, not just really superficial, not just what is your name, where do you work, what's your major, but looking at the worldview, because worldviews really shape who we are. So with this session, we're going to be digging in on the topic that you've seen at hand. Did you check your blind spots? How do we learn to live with each other and be aware of that? I've already gotten some questions regarding what does that title mean? What are you getting at? This is really interesting. So I want y'all to make sure you sit back, enjoy this time that we have together. Once again, if you have any questions, put that in the Q&A chat box that's at the bottom. I'll get those while I'm doing the session. And if not, we'll have a Q&A portion at the end. Also, this is being recorded. Make sure y'all can see me. This is being recorded and we'll have it on YouTube. So just keep that in mind. But with that being said, I'm gonna read the subtitle a little bit so you get a glimpse of what I'm talking about. Did you check your blind spots? Learning how to live with others in mind. Though many of us have learned the do's and don'ts of driving, put your seatbelt on, check your mirror, use your turn signals, etc., we often forget the overall purpose of the road. Instead of driving, being aware of other cars and with people in mind, our aim is usually to get from one destination to the other in a hurry. And that usually results in accidents and fender benders. And the reason why I wanted to use this topic for our Interfaith Forward session today is because when I first got to Pitt, it's been more than a decade ago, I remember as an undergrad, I was driving on 5th, but I was actually driving the wrong way. And so if you know 5th, it has 3 lanes going one way and then the bus lane. So I was driving in the bus lane and a bunch of people was waving at me. And I was like, this is really nice. People are interested and, they want to make my time here really, really good. And they weren't waving at me to say hi. They were waving at me because I was in the wrong lane, but I didn't know that. And I remember I turned, I think it was going into Oakland, and then the cop told me, hey, you're on the wrong lane. Just make sure. And I'm like, I'm new here. So he exclaimed that was okay. But that was my first instance of just understanding the type of infrastructure that Pittsburgh has, in terms of its roads, in terms of its highways. And that was only expounded upon once I actually got on the highway. And I remember, if my sister's on here, shout out to talk to my sister. She helped me to drive when I was younger. She taught me how to drive on the highway. I remember I learned in pedestrian areas, but on the highway was a whole nother thing. And she explained to me some of the same things I'm telling you, to make sure you put your turn signal on, to make sure that you check your mirrors, to make sure you have your seatbelt on, all of the do's and don'ts of driving. But one thing she said that was really key is she said the highway is not like pedestrian areas. The highway, you're traveling at high speeds. People are usually speeding, so you need to make sure you check your blind spots. And I said, how do I have blind spots when I have all these mirrors? And she said, the blind spot is the area right beside your car and a little bit behind it where your side mirrors and your rear view mirror don't really cover. And I experienced this the hard way when I was on the highway and she was teaching me. And I looked at my turn signal. I thought I checked my blind spots, but I didn't. And I almost hit a car and we almost got into a bad accident. The car proceeded to flip me off, yell at me, and I said, I'm about to die on the road. And she said, I told you to check your blind spots. And I kind of kept that with me throughout my life, just with driving, not just to make sure that my turn signal on all of the normal rules, but blind spots are really areas that we cannot see with any of our mirrors. We basically lack sight and vision in these areas, right? And as I mentioned, what makes blind spots so dangerous is that they get exposed on the highway. If you've ever driven on the highway, you've seen how sporadic and how chaotic it is, how people are moving at high speeds. And those who know how to drive, not just the rules, but those who know how to really check their blind spots, they flourish in the highway. But those who are just bent on getting from one place to the next place, on getting to their destination, that's where we see a lot of accidents happen. And one of the things when it comes to your blind spots is checking the area requires drivers to basically break their neck out of their normal view, out of their vision, and they have to ask for help. Usually if they have somebody in the car, you have to ask somebody for help. And I wanted to use that as the backdrop to talk about how we engage people who don't believe what we believe. How do we engage people who come from a different worldview? How do we learn to live with others in mind? Because I gave you the literal definition, but when we talk about a metaphorical one, a blind spot with us, how we live, I'm equating how we drive to how we live. How we drive, many times we're very sporadic. We go everywhere. We really don't obey stop signs. Red is really orange to slow down. And our blind spots, we rarely check them. And that's how we get into accidents. But from a metaphorical, from an interfaith perspective, a blind spot is an area in which a person cannot see when using their normal worldview. So in essence, they lack understanding or perspective in a specific area. And most people, in like it is in the physical, don't know that they have blind spots or somebody is in it until it's too late. So I believe the same way it's in the physical, we have it when we live with each other. The same way it's present regarding how we're driving, it's present how we live with each other. When we lack understanding and perspective of others in specific areas, these blind spots become dangerous and they really get exposed. Just like when we drive, it gets exposed on the highway. Our blind spots with each other get exposed when we're in tense situations, when emotions are at a high and things and conversations and language frequently change. And just like driving, checking our blind spots requires people to break off from our normal worldview and actually be humble and ask for help. Now, I said a lot right now. I want to make sure that I emphasize you can go to the Q&A. If you have any questions, I can answer them as we're digging in to our topic. If not, I'll get to them after. But one of the reasons why I wanted to touch on this area is because just from my work of engaging people who believe in different things, seeing and observing how people live, sitting with them, I always get people coming to my office saying that, how do I deal with this tense situation? How do I deal with this person? What about how this person believes? How do I engage this person who believes something that's contrary to what I believe? How can I live with people? It's like traffic. How can I navigate? How can I move from one direction to another? And usually I have to tell them, one, you've missed the whole idea of life. Now, this is not a philosophical pool that I'm trying to jump into. It's really understanding that we're all interconnected and you cannot live this life as if you are in a vacuum apart from everybody else. As much as you have your worldview, as much as you have your agenda, as much as you have your point of destination, I'm here and I'm trying to get to Target. I'm here and I'm trying to get to Whole Foods. I'm trying to get to Trader Joe's. I'm trying to get to the grocery store. I'm trying to get to the gas station. I need to get to work and I'm late. We usually hop in the car and we get mad at people for being in our way. And one of the examples of interfaith blind spots of just living with each other, but not being aware of each other, a blind spot is monologue dressed as dialogue. Many times that's one of the values and one of the pillars of our office is dialogue, not monologue. But this is an often blind spot, an area that's close to us, a little behind us, but our normal mirrors, our rear view and our side, we can't see it. Monologue dressed as dialogue. Many times people speak and listen not to understand, but to simply reply. Anytime that I'm creating spaces, and I'm guilty, all of these situations that I'm giving you, I'm guilty of it. So I'm speaking not as a you all need to do this. I'm speaking as a we need to work at this together, because it's only when we work together that we can really check each other's blind spots. Anytime I'm creating a space for dialogue, I always get somebody or a group of people or that are well-intentioned. They have good intent to get in a dialogue with people, but many times they don't understand what dialogue means. They think it's simply, I'm going to speak and tell you what I think and show you my agenda. But if you don't agree, I'm going to move you out the way. And that's difficult because if you're not listening to understand, you're not really having a dialogue. You're having a monologue dressed as a dialogue. You're really driving, shifting, swerving around people. But if people get in your way or don't understand that you're late, you have an issue, not understanding that they're on the road to get somewhere as well. And I had a friend who got into a bad accident a few years ago, and it was terrible. And he let me know that many times we forget when we're driving fast that we're not driving in a big box of pillows. We're actually driving in 2 tons of steel. And when you get in an accident, it reminds you that you are not just running, you are not just walking, that there aren't robots in those cars, that they're actually people. And accidents are unforgiving. Steel is unforgiving. And many times when we come together, it's usually because of bloodshed, because of accidents, but that doesn't have to be our stimulus. We can actually be proactive and say, you know what? When I'm talking to somebody about a tense situation, let me bring it down. I need to work on intentionally listening to them. So for many of us, we need to work on shutting up. I know that seems simple, that may even seem a little bit direct, but when we're engaging with people, ask yourself, if they say something that pricks you, is your first response to react, to respond and say, you don't know what you're talking about. This is how it is, even though that's what you believe. And once again, I said, I'm a hardcore Christian. I'm a person of faith, and I hold strong convictions. But when my convictions when my agenda caused me to move somebody else out the way because they don't understand that I need to get to where I need to get to. They don't understand that the road was built for me. When in actuality, all of us are on this road trying to get to where we need to, and maybe helping people along will do that. So I need to be aware that, hey, that person has a turn signal on. Hey, somebody's crying in their car. Hey, this person has a flat tire. Let me understand where they're going and what's going on with them, instead of saying, hey, you're blocking up the road. Why don't you understand and flow with me? And I think having that perspective is huge. My second point to really just understand is that an interfaith blind spot can be deep, but no depth. Deep, but no depth. And some of my partners, we always talk, we get into theological conversation, and we love just being in the deep. And that's all well and good, but many times our deep has no depth. So what I mean by that is it's very difficult to get into deep conversations with people that you have no relational equity with. Because when you're trying to engage in authentic conversation, how can a person trust you when they don't know you? They may think you're getting into a conversation that says, you know what? You're in this conversation to make me feel stupid. You're in this. I don't think you have the best intentions for me. You're simply on the road to get where you want to go. You don't really care about me, which is why you're swerving, which is why you're talking in the manner that you're talking to. And I just urge us to ask ourselves, are we sowing equity in relationships before we engage in deep conversations? Are we actually getting to know people as people, or are people projects? That comes from a really great poet that I love, Jackie Hill Perry. She has a quote: "We are people to be loved, not projects to be fixed." So when you're looking at people, are people merely stop signs? Are they street lights? Are they speed bumps? Are they something to be acknowledged but not embraced? Or are they actual people driving in cars at in the same road as you at different speeds, and actually giving them that value? Does that really stop you from getting where you need to go? Are you trying to get into conversations that are tough without actually engaging the person? Are you being deep with no depth? Because when we're trying to learn how to live with people in mind, we can't see them as disposable. We can't see them as simply things that are stopping us from getting our point across. We have to actually show some relational equity. So people who you don't like, ask yourself, have you actually gotten to know them past the rumors that you've heard? Things that you don't like, ideologies that you don't understand, are you Wikipediaing them? Or actually, are you actually getting into a relationship with someone who believes it, but not for the sake of using them for information, but actually saying, what does that mean to you? Am I actually invested in the people in the road, or are they just people I have to move around? So I want them to work with me, but I won't work with them. Do I want to be understood without me understanding? Number 3, the last one, the interfaith blind spot is, do we treat people simply as signs? I mentioned this before in the last point that many times when I drive in Pittsburgh, I got love for Pittsburgh, and I know it's in a lot of cities that my listeners may be into, but you always can see those people who drive, and you might be one of them. I was, who will swerve past you and speed past you only to meet you at the light. So that's happened to me. Somebody swerved past me, almost got in an accident. I got angry, but then I realized they met me at the light. So I met them at that light, and I looked at them and said, well, you almost got me into an accident, and I met you at the light. And one thing I realized is many times we think the faster we go, the farther we'll get. But that's actually wrong. See, if you want to go fast, you can go alone. But if you want to go far, you have to go together, because that's the key. A motorcycle or a car that's driving in the road can go as fast as it wants, but sooner or later, you're going to have to stop at a stop sign. You're going to have to stop at a red street light. That's a blanket for everybody. You're going to meet a traffic block. So if you don't work with the road system, if you don't weave in and out of it with people in mind, you'll start treating people as signs that you should acknowledge, but not as people yet that you should embrace. You'll start swerving around them and causing accidents that you shouldn't. You'll start breaking relationships that you probably can't mend. You'll start burning bridges that you'll probably need in the future. And these are blind spots, a few blind spots that I've just become aware of. And I just want to encourage us. I know that we know how to drive when roads are clear. It's very easy to have conversations with people who agree with us. It's easy to live in harmony when quarantine isn't happening. But many times we end up, if we aren't aware of our blind spots, we'll end up losing relationships and friendships for the sake of being right, for the sake of getting our point across. We'll have good content, but we won't have good context. We'll say the right things, but in the wrong tone. We won't speak so it can edify the hearer. We'll simply say, you know what, you need to understand what I'm saying. I need to get to Whole Foods because I'm late, instead of saying, who's on the side of the road? Do I need to call the ambulance? Do I need to contact a police officer to help somebody who needs a jump? Can I be of service on this road, or is this road simply for me? And some tips I just want to give you before we get to this Q&A. I know we have some people that ask some questions. They're going to be literal, so if you drive a little crazy, this is going to be for you. But also, if you want to get better and at least healthier and more conscious and sensitive to how we engage with people we live, I think these will help you. Always check your shoulders. So it might have to be a quick glance when you're free before you change lanes, but check your shoulders, i.e. be aware. Don't drive in cruise control when it's dense and it's traffic. Don't just put your turn signal on and expect people to honor it. See who's there and move with the traffic. Number 2, do not place or stack things behind you to where it'll obscure your vision. So whatever things are stacking up, they may be, you may desire them for your trip, but do you need to place priorities and preferences and switch them? Number 3, drive aware of your surroundings. Eliminate distractions. So as much as we like it, this is an issue. Driving while texting is dangerous, the same thing as living while only engaging with people online. You need to get in real life, face-to-face presence relationships. And lastly, if you're driving with people, if you're living in a community, which we all are, ask for help. You cannot see your own blind spots. It is very tough to see. And that is why if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, please go together. I'm going to answer some questions. I like to say that we all have brokenness, but none of us are accidents. Do you think that fits with your traffic car analogy? Just to make sure that I emphasize that none of us are accidents. I merely use that because people might be going through things in their life where they get into an accident. So that talks about relationships. We're all driving, we're all walking this life, but somebody may have an incident that hurts them, that they're going through. So my thing is, as we're driving and we see somebody hurting on the side, when we see somebody who didn't have a flat tire but caught a flat tire, how bold will we be to stop our own direction of getting to where we need to, because we need to get there, and actually go on the side and help them? So when it comes to none of us being accidents, absolutely. We're all living and driving in this life, trying to get to where we need to go. But that analogy was really being cognizant of those who are around us who may get in accidents, because we might get in accidents. And I've been on the side of the road and wanted somebody to give me a jump. I didn't begin my journey needing a jump. But I may need a jump because my battery died, or I may get into a fender bender, or my tire may come off and then I'm on the side of the road. Or I may get into a fender bender simply because of miscommunication, both driving and living. So how much of us is aware of who's around us? Also, when we talk about, we want people to be aware of us. Great question. My second question is, how do you talk to someone or work with someone who always has monologues dressed in dialogues? I think simply telling people that they aren't listening may not work, because once again, that's a blind spot. So, hey, you're driving in this manner. I don't think that'll work. You're doing this. Many times, if you push the truth in people's faith, they'll push it off if it's not attractive or it doesn't deem them to be seen in a good light. I think you listening, you practicing what you want them to do may actually help. So I know somebody who talks a lot. Anytime I'm talking with them, they rarely may ask how I'm doing. And obviously they're going through things, but the conversation is usually one-sided. But they think that, hey, I just had a great conversation with Emiola. It's good to talk to you. And I was like, you didn't even know what I was going through. But many times as they talk, I would ask open-ended questions. So as they would tell me what's going on, I would say, hey, tell me a little bit more about this. And as they would dig in and flush stuff out, they would meet a place where they needed to hear what I had to say. Because at the end of the day, many times we think we know everything, but as we flush life out a little bit more, we'll start to realize, oh, I have a hole here. I have a gap here. What do you think about this, Emiola? Oh, okay, well, I think you approached this in the right way, but did you take into consideration that person might have been hurt by a previous relationship? Oh, I didn't even understand that. Or did you think about the historical tension between both of your groups? Or did you think about this, that, and third? So open-ended questions usually force people to get out of their assumptions and any presuppositions that they have and start to dig in. And usually when people dig in, they'll start to see, hey, my shovel has hit metal. I need to ask somebody for help to get this out the way. I appreciate everybody for tuning in once again. This is just Interfaith Forward, building new bridges together. Next week, we'll have another session at 3 p.m. I'll send the link out. This is going to be recorded. This is being recorded, and you'll be able to see this at another time. We'll make sure that the clip is available for you on YouTube. And just to emphasize, as we're in this quarantine time because of coronavirus, do not simply go through this, but make sure you grow through this. All right. We're going to shift to a slide that has my information on it. If you need to get in contact with me via email or my website, I want to give a big shout out again to University Against Academic Ceremony for making this opportunity possible. And with that being said, y'all have a great day and make sure you are building new bridges together.